Good afternoon, everyone. This is Manuel Fernandez from Blackboard Support. Today, I'll be talking about groups, how to create them, manage them, grade them, and what other beneficial things you can do within your class with the group tool. For this, we'll start with the homepage, and then we'll go to Users and Groups and click on the Groups Tools area. Then I'll go to Create. Now, for the sake of this example, I'm going to create a manual enrollment, but you have several options in the group set area. You can do self-enrollment, which creates a sign-up sheet. Actually, we'll cover that in a little bit later. Then you have random enrollment, which without really any specific settings, it'll just randomly choose person A, person B, person F, and C and put them all into one group, and then the rest of the class will go into another group, and so on until everybody has been assigned to one of the groups. That's the random enrollment. Then you have manual enrollment, which would be a group set similar to a single group, where you have the ability to manually add these specific individuals. If this is a face-to-face class or a hybrid class, and you know that two people are too buddy-buddy or too distracted to actually participate in the class when they're right next to each other, then you might want to separate them into different groups. However, this also is beneficial if you just want to control the amount of people in each group. That's another functionality. So I'm going to go to the single group and click on manual enrollment. I'm going to call this assignment and assessment group. So the key thing is to make the group visible to students. Then you can select from this list what tools will be available to your students. Some of these tools do allow you to have them graded. This is particularly useful for the discussion and for the I don't think actually the discussion doesn't have it graded. This is useful for blogs, journals, wikis, specifically wikis. They get used a lot in groups, and this will give you the ability to have a graded value. We have a new tool called VoiceThread that has been discussed in previous videos. That is now a tool availability option in the groups area. So that allows students to create their group voice thread, and they can give each other feedback. This could be useful if you are having to do group presentations. You could have that voice thread turned on and have them submit a presentation and then go through it as a group and talk about it, either doing the specific parts or giving feedback to each other. And I will go ahead and cover that in a little bit later. So one of the things I would recommend, and this is whether you have a group set, which is multiple groups at once, or a single group, is to create a smart view. What smart view will do is anything that's classified as a group assignment and belongs to group 1, group 2, group 3, and so forth, it will split it off. So that way, when you go to a smart view for group 1, only the students for group 1 will show up in the grade center. You'll be able to go through each assignment or project, grade it, and then move on. And I will demonstrate this afterwards. So I'm going to go ahead and check that. That's a cool feature in the Grade Center, and one of these days I'll cover the Grade Center in more in depth. So I'm going to go to Add Users. These are all fake students, so no worries. I'm going to go ahead and click on students attempts 1 through student 5, 2, 1, and 4, and then I'm going to go ahead and click Submit. I'm going to click Submit. So now I have 4 students here. Now, just to recap, we have blogs that are not graded. We have discussion boards, and the students can create their own forums and discussions. We have journals, wikis. I'm going to go ahead and turn on the grade point value for the wikis. And I'm going to do this, I'm going to make this 100 points. And then I'm going to make this a requirement of 5 page saves, and I'll talk about what that looks like. You can add a rubric if you wanted to, and I'll also go over VoiceThreads in a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to click submit. So I'm also going to go ahead and enroll one other person here. Give me 1 second. I have a fake user, which I'll use to demonstrate some of this stuff. Okay. Okay, so now we have assignment and assessment group. So we have the set of tools. This is what the group module this is what the group page looks like, and it could be named differently. You can add other modules if you wanted to, but I wouldn't recommend it. Just leave it like this. You have various tools. This is all well and good. So I'm going to switch to student preview mode. I'm going to do some participation in the group, and then we'll cover that, how that works. So when a student enters, the Blackboard class and you're enrolled into a group, if the group is made available or the availability is set to yes in the tools area, then they'll show this little My Groups content that takes them directly into that group module where we were just in as an instructor. It will give you whatever tools and functionalities. I can go to the home page, which is what most students might do, or they can go directly to the area that they wish to work in or participate. So just to cover file exchange, it is a useful tool for uploading documents or videos or audio. If the students are meant to be working together, that's one way to exchange things. Now, it is 2019, so there are new features and new tools available that the university might not the university supports Office 365, which is available for every student. Sorry. So there are new features besides file exchange. The Office 365 allows asynchronous or synchronous participation within the same document. Same thing with a presentation or an Excel spreadsheet. So file exchange might not get used as much, but this is just a matter for, this allows students to upload content for other students to download. It's fairly straightforward. The next option you have is your group log. So students could start posting here like reflection entries, or maybe if part of the assignment is to summarize an article. Let me call that article summary. So each student might have an article summary. So it's article so and so. Okay, so I could write a reflection or a summary of the article. This will be useful if you want to break down your written project assignments into bibliography stages where students are providing their different sources. It might also be key to know what those sources are, so they can just post that as an entry with the summary. They can also attach their files if they wanted to, and then click post entry, right? I am going to go to the wiki, which is one of the things I wanted to talk about. So the wiki is a tool that is very collaborative. What it does is you create a page. So I'm going to call this introduction. Project introduction. So each time that you open to edit a page, that is considered one save. Okay, so right now there's nothing here, so I'm going to click on edit. That should be counted as a 1. So I'm going to say members are, and then this is a WYSIWYG editor, so what you see is what you get. I'm going to do a list here, student temp 5, student 2, 1. I think that's what I remember out of the top of my head. And then student review user manual. I think that's what my username is supposed to be when I'm a fake student. Well, let's call it that. So if that was incorrect for whatever reason, or if I need to come back in and now do like abstract summary, or I'm adding bibliography, APA citation 1, right? APA citation 2. So if I'm doing all sorts of things, this is every time, again, as I mentioned, every time that I open the page, that's considered another, once I open the page and submit, that's considered another save. So I think at this point I have like 3 saves. I'm gonna do a couple more just to be safe. I'm gonna say I didn't actually study this much. And then I'm gonna do methods. So I'm gonna add that. So yeah, I'll add just some random words here, just some gibberish for a moment. Okay, so I'm gonna click submit. So that should be about 4. Just to push that one more time, I'm gonna do, okay, I want to actually delete this APA citation and call it APA citation 1. Let's say I made some modifications or we substituted it with a different source. I'm going to call it that. Actually, I have one more issue here. I have this isn't really properly written out, so I'll call that in. So I'm going to go ahead and click save. Okay, so fairly shoddy work, but student preview user Manuel Fernandez has done some things here in this content area. I could keep going, but really this would be enough to show, this is enough to show contribution. So if a student wanted to, they could look into my contribution and look at what they've done so far, right? So yes, I was pretty much right around six saves. It also shows you how much of a percentage the student has participated. Right now, since I'm the only person that has participated and I've done all this, written words, I have like 100% of words modified and 100% of total saves. What would be an equitable amount for your project? What would you define that as? I don't know. I would work with you are more than welcome to come in and we can work that out, or it could be based more on the rubric. And also, if I added a couple more individuals, you could look at the actual participation, like the content of the user's modifications. So like, let me look at, let's say, for example, I'm looking at page project introduction 6. That's the last version. That is the contribution that I last made before I went into this area. So I'm going to compare that to version 5. All I did was correct some letters, right, for the word citation. So that's not going to be considered a substantial participation on your part, or at least it shouldn't be considered as such. So this is, this would be something like, okay, the person like added a couple periods here, a sentence here, a comma. Maybe that's not really what you're looking for on them. You want to have them maybe split it into, like, one person does the summary, one person does methods, the other person does bibliography. You might also want to split that between 2 people or and so on. So that's something to keep in mind. How you're going to tackle this group projects is something to consider. But this shows you what's going on within the contributions made by one individual or all the individuals in the group, right? So that's wikis. Now we have, because, let me exit student preview, because we have created a group assignment. When I go to the Grade Center, I should be able to go to Full Grade Center. I'm going to Smart Views, and I'm going to create a smart, I'm going to favorite this smart view, and it's now going to be added to the, it's going to be added to the Grade Center, I think. Let's see. Yes. So once you check the star next to the group smart view or any smart view that you might create, it will allow you to then see that as a shortcut. So the most common ones are assignments and tests. That'll take you to any column categorized as an assessment or any column categorized as an assignment. With this smart view that I created, it takes you directly to any columns that are part of a quiz or of a group assignment. And it'll show you only the individuals. It'll only show you the individuals participating in those group assignments. Actually, it'll show you every column, but you can modify this even more. But it shows you every column and the students involved, right? So we have a wiki here. Let me look for that. Assignment, an assessment group wiki, and that's where you can come in and look at view grade details. So grade group attempt. So because this is a group assignment, it's going to show needs grading if a person hits the max, the needs grading criteria. So because I did 6 page saves, which is the minimum was 5, it's going to mark it as needs grading. However, only one person knows the work. So this is where you're going to come in and say maybe this is more like a 75% for the entire class. And then you can go, you might want to override that and give one person 100. So that's something to keep in mind. If that's not correct, or this is, obviously this is a fake example. So if you have a person that did a lot of the content, you might give that person like an 80 versus an 75, somebody that demonstrated more familiarity with the subject or demonstrated more critical thinking skills, that person might get a little higher. Or somebody that was in charge of a specific area and that area was lacking severely might get a 25 out of 100. So you can do this with a rubric. You can also do this with just manually as an instructor. You can modify things like per student or as a group, as an entire unit, they can get a specific grade. So that's something to keep in mind. I'm going to go ahead and click submit. So this attempt has been graded. So that is group wikis as an assignment. This is also group Smart View. So again, that was done by going to the Smart Views area. If you have a group, existing group, and you check the box ahead of time, it will show up in this area, right? Now, let me show you how to create a Smart View. If I went to Smart View, I could call this group view. And then I say course group, view one or more course groups. This is why the properties in the group set or group creation work better, because otherwise you're having to do multiple groups, right? Multiple smart views manually. You don't want to do that. You just want to go ahead and have that done, created automatically from this. I'm going to create that automatically from the group properties rather than have to do that one by one. Okay, but here we have some things we can modify. Okay, so this is where, and I could do this, and I could do that in the other column. So let me go back to group assignment, an assessment, Smart View. This one was manually automatically created. So the only thing I want to change about this is I only want to select specific columns, and that column needs to be the wiki, right? So let's find that. Okay, so it's called a assignment and assessment group wiki, but I'm gonna just call that. So if I went back to the smart view for group assignment and assessment, it would show me only that one column. So that's an alternative. If you don't want to have all the individual stuff that your students are going to get through the class, and you only want to see the parts that are relevant to each group. So for example, again, you split your group project into like a research brainstorming assignment submission, a couple of discussion forums. You break it into bibliography submission, uh, online or live presentation or oral presentation plus written assignment. Those are 4 or 5 columns that you've created. You can add those 5 columns so every student in for this one group will show only those 4 or 5 columns. So everything else, quizzes, discussion forums that they might be working on, it's going to be ignored for the time being because you just want to focus on those specific things. All right. So that's what the smart views do when it comes to relation to the group assignment. It's again, it's a wonderful tool that you can use and make your life when you're handling group assignments and when you're working with all this information. It's a great way to get that organized, so that way you can save some time. Okay. So those groups in the group grade center. I also want to touch on, let's see. I want to touch on the, I think, give me 1 second. I think you might be able to create a group, right? Let me see. No, I don't think so. Okay. So I want to also touch on assignment, adaptive release, and group submission. So I'm going to go to assignment. I'm going to go call this group 1. And the key part would be to turn this into a group submission and then select from the standing groups what you want that to be. So if you split the groups to different subjects, sorry, if you split the group into if you split the class into different subjects or different, say, literature material, like one person reads a theater play, another person's reading a short story, then you wouldn't want that the assignment pointing about the assignment about the theater play to show up for the individuals in the short story group. So this would be where you can filter that. If I would recommend, when it comes to assignment submissions, to allow for more than one attempt, because it can always be that a student is not working with the latest information and they could submit the assignment and then realize, oh, my other classmate had the finished bibliography as well as all the previous material that I had. So this would be a good time to consider switching to multiple attempts. Maybe you could do 2 or 3 attempts just as some breathing room, and then you can go ahead and click submit. So that's one thing. That's the thing you can do. You click submit, and there you go. If you want to, and I think so. What happens here is as an individual in a group, when you submit, you take over everybody else's submission attempts. So if you don't want to do that, if you don't want to have like if each person's supposed to submit their own assignment or paper, what I would do is an adaptive release. So I would call this group 1 submission. it will still be individual. Again, you can still go so far as to do like a multiple attempts just for the sake of breathing room. I'm going to call that 100 points and click submit. And then I would go to adapt to release. And select the group. So now what happens is you're not limiting them by who submits into the assignment, but what will really happen is only the individuals in the assignment and assessment group will be able to see this submission. They'll still be submitting individually. That would be something you would want to notify your students on when it comes either to an announcement or through the instructions themselves. Make that distinction. But other than that, it would work still the same. So student submits and then you have multiple assignments you want to grade. I would say this is not something that you might use frequently. Most faculty accept one submission per group. So the only thing I would recommend in that case is to have that be a multiple attempt to prevent people stepping on each other's toes and saying, oh, I forgot the bibliography and oh, you had it, so let me, now I can't submit anymore. So you might want to do that instead. So that covers the group tools. Oh, no, sorry, it does not. The last thing I have is VoiceThread. Give me 1 second. So let's look at VoiceThread. Okay, so the student cannot create a VoiceThread, but what they can do is participate in a VoiceThread. So let me go back to, as an instructor, go to Tools. Let me find the VoiceThread area. And we have discussed VoiceThread before. We have some tools that you can check out. I will link to them in the, we have some instructions and some videos that you can check out, and I will link to them in the description. But we have VoiceThread here. This is what we're going to do. We're going to check the boxes here because we're going to make this a graded assignment. You can check whatever points possible if that's what you want. So I'm going to go ahead and make this available. I'm going to make this a group assignment. I'm going to submit and launch. Now, because I selected the outcomes and the grading and the grade point value, it gives me an additional option, which is the assignment builder. So what the assignment builder does is that a student is required, well, you can select from a list of options, which is as a group, the students create a VoiceThread. So they upload a PowerPoint, they upload YouTube, they upload a video, they attach some sort of document into the VoiceThread, and that's what creates a VoiceThread for you to review. You can make them as a group, again, submit content, a comment. So you would provide them some sort of material for them to review, and then as a group, they could participate and make comments on there. Or as a group, you can make them watch a VoiceThread. It's fairly same as an individual function, but this is for the group. So I'm going to make them create an assignment, VoiceThread. I'm going to make them create a VoiceThread here. So submit a group oral presentation or insert subject. So I'm going to create the assignment, right? So going back to learning materials, I have an assignment here that's only for one group. I think I can go ahead and maybe who's in group? Let's see. Who is in that? I'm going to drop myself from the group for a moment. Let's turn that off. And I will cover this all users tab, which is I find fairly useful. So I'm going to go back to student preview mode. So now I've dropped myself with a group very temporarily to go to learning materials, and there's nothing there. I think also in assignments there's nothing there. So I've removed myself from the group, so I no longer can see those several of the things that I put in as as group assignments. Let me go back to the users tab. Sorry, the group tab. So I go to users and groups, and I go to groups. You have group set, which would show you all the groups that have existed, or you might want to turn on or turn off. And you have all users. This is if the groups already exist and you want to do manual enrollment. This is very straightforward. You just find the person you want to add into and move them into the group that you want to move them to. You can, if you have more than one group, you can select from the drop-down menu and add them to another one. So I'm going to go back to student preview, go back to learning materials. So now I'm back in group one. So now I can see the assignment that was not adaptively released. It only shows for that one group. The individual group submission that was adaptively released. And then we have a voice thread, which if I click on, it'll just ask me to create a new voice thread. I'm going to attach a presentation. It's going to be considered as submitted. I'm going to click on, I'm going to exit preview. So now this is going to be considered a graded assignment, right? So if I go back to homepage, let me go back into my sandbox. So if I go back to the grade center, go to the voice thread at the end. Oh, I forgot to mention, this is one thing to keep in mind with the adaptive release option is that when you do an adaptive release assignment that is not individual, it is going to allow, it would technically allow every student to submit. So you're going to you're going to run into this problem where you're going to have a lot of empty columns where if you do a group assignment, the students that do not belong in that group are automatically grayed out, so it doesn't belong to them. That's not a concern for them anymore. So that's something to keep in mind if you're doing this. Now let me see, like, do I have, I don't know what happened with my preview. Let me get my user data. So let's go back into voice thread for a moment. There it is. Okay. So this looks like it worked out, but just to be safe, I'm gonna log in again. Right. Okay, that's not gonna work. So okay. Going back into the grade center, let's take a look. So not showing. Let me see if maybe it requires another student to look at it. Let's see. Just gonna grab student temp 1. Give me 1 second. Okay, so now I'm back with student attempt 1. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to go to the VoiceThread submission, see what happens. Go to Learning Materials, click on VoiceThread. Oh, right, this is a big student. Okay, that's not going to work. I will look at that and see what could be the reason for that. But yeah, I wanted to go over just some of the functionalities and groups. I can definitely cover that a little more if anybody's interested. Leave a comment, like, messages at bb@uhd.edu, and we can cover this a little further. But that would conclude the brief discussion about groups, the functionalities, how to manage them, and um, and how beneficial they can be for your class. The thing that I would recommend the most is creating your group views. So that makes your management of the groups and their grades a lot easier. And again, that can always be done you create the smart view area first, and then you go to the manage smart view area in the full grade center, and you just check the boxes here. And that will show you that will be beneficial for you. So this is Manuel Fernandez signing off for today. I hope you all enjoy the video and have a good day. Bye.